So as a reminder, the performance report is a one-year look on what is outlined in the county's FY20 through 22 strategic business plan and is a second-year report of the three-year plan made available on the county manager's homepage. And so the purpose of today is to share highlights of the FY21 performance results focused on 5 goal areas, goals, multiple strategies, key performance indicators, and key initiatives that we took on in the last 2 fiscal years. And we also want to inform the community on where to locate the performance results via the county's page. The strategic business plan and flow of the performance report has 5 goal areas with 5 specific but broad goals, multiple strategies that are going to be included in the top left on each slide that I'll go over. Under the topic, key performance indicators that will be on the right side of the slides, and key initiatives that are outlined in part and parcel in the presentation and in the full report respectively. Sorry, there's a delay. Okay. So the first goal area and goal is accountable government. In every county department, the county manager's office requires leaders to track and report on customer satisfaction with programs and services and across 5 customer service standards, which are courtesy and respect, communication, timeliness, ethics, and overall service quality. And as you can see on this slide, over the past 10 years, customer satisfaction has been above 95% each year, ending in FY21 with a result of 96%, recognizing that for a full fiscal year, the county was in a work from home status. It is great that we are able to still maintain the 96% satisfaction rating. However, one thing to note is that in the fiscal year, primarily due to closures, there was a 44% decrease in the number of survey responses. So one of the things that we're going to do in this fiscal year and beyond is monitor survey responses as well as focus on identifying ways to have a greater understanding of customer experience in person and virtually. Regarding the finances, one main strategy, although not the only, is to manage the use of debt and expenses to maintain the county's creditworthiness and affordable and competitive tax rate. 2 measures highlighted here: 1, personal and real property tax collection rate, and 2, combined general fund and debt service fund balance as a percent of prior year general fund and debt service revenues. Both measures have good news. For FY21, the personal real property tax collection rate was 99.22%, with a budgeted tax collection rate for that fiscal year of 99%. The second metric is the combined general fund and fund balance that's down below. With a minimal target of 28%, in FY2021, the result was 36% and is in line with previous year's results. Of note is that this methodology reflects the addition of fund balance appropriated in the next fiscal year's budget to the balance of the general fund committed by the Board of County Commissioners. For county communication, the strategy is to improve communication information about county news, programs, and services to residents and customers. 3 key metrics we track. 1 is the number of mecnc.gov users, which equates to the count of unique visitors to mecnc.gov. And 2, the number of social media engagements, which is the number of interactions with posts on Mecklenburg County's Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram pages. And 3, the number of social media impressions, which is the number of times Mecklenburg County posts were displayed in users' feedback on Facebook and Twitter. For the number of mecnc.gov users, results show 3.7+ million unique visitors visited the website in FY21. This is up from 3.2 to 3.3 million seen in FY20. Regarding the social media engagements in FY21, more than 548,000 were actively engaged via the various social media platforms managed by Mecklenburg County. You see that number is down from prior year, but that is because the 895,000 social media engagements were primarily driven by Q4 and seen towards the end of FY20. So essentially, when we went into the pandemic, public information ratcheted up their efforts in the social media space, and that's why you see that spike from FY 2019 to 2020, but then we normalized a little bit in FY 2021. And for the social media impressions, more than 19 million times, Mecklenburg County posts were displayed in users' feeds on Facebook and Twitter. And one additional highlight that is good to note is that despite the increase in FY20 via social media, staff and public information responded to more than 70% of social media inquiries in 24 hours. In the 3-year plan, one of the largest initiatives that we have, and probably the most impactful for employees in our organization, is an initiative on talent management. Over the last year, staff and human resources worked diligently to implement the new applicant tracking system, underwent rebranding efforts for HR department materials, and completed the classification and compensation redesign project in August of 2021, although the majority of the efforts were done in FY20. 2 key metrics we track for HR. One is the 2-year county employee retention rate, and with a target of 75% that was set at the beginning of the plan cycle in FY21, 74% of employees remained within Mecklenburg County or remained with Mecklenburg County 2 years after the start date of their employment. So it's important to note this metric does not include all county employees. It just includes those employees that started employment 2 years from the date that we report this result. And for this metric, we will continue to monitor in FY 2022, although for FY20, we do know that the number of new hires may be smaller, given that the county was on a hiring freeze for part of FY20. The other metric is average days to fill postings. And with a target of 58 or fewer days, the number of days ticked up for this year from 62.2 in FY20 to 71.4. And mainly some of those reasons were we had the hiring freeze in FY20, and we also know that the talent acquisition team worked to fill over 300 requisitions in a limited number of time with finite resources and smaller candidate pools. Another key initiative where we've made some great strides, although impacted by COVID-19, is the work conducted by the Office of Equity and Inclusion, or OEI. In FY20 and 21, OEI provided the Advancing Racial Equity trainings to 4,027 county employees for a total of 95% of full-time employees during that time period undergoing the training. Additionally, the county began the planning phase of a multi-year implementation plan for the county, of which new departmental guidelines were put in place for project managers to help increase participation of MWSBE contractors. And the guidelines come on the heels of the county's MWSBE Policies and Procedures Evaluation and Disparity Study that was aimed at evaluating such practices. Moreover, the county devoted additional significant resources towards implementing the plan. While these were some of the highlights, there were many more accomplishments by OEI and others in the county, as specified in the full performance report found online. So the next goal area to cover is connected community. And this particular goal area focuses on fostering physical, social, information resources for all residents and visitors to the community. So when we talk about connected community, we're not just talking about physical infrastructure, we're also talking about information that can connect people to the county as well as socially. So the strategy listed here is to become a connected community by designing and building public parks, greenways, nature preserves, and recreation centers. In FY 2020, staff began tracking the completed projects in a given fiscal year. And what this slide shows you is a list of those projects completed in FY 21. In FY 21, there were 5 greenways with 5 facilities added, 5 greenways and 5 facilities added to the total number of projects completed, bringing the overall total to 15 for the 3-year plan cycle. For more than 5 years, the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Library has sought to grow the network of active library cardholders through marketing and outreach efforts in Mecklenburg County. The measure we track to understand its contribution to making the county a more connected community is the percent of Mecklenburg County households with an active library account. With a target of 40%, the result for FY21 was 32%, which equates to about 135,000 households with an active account. And of note, the active accounts include both physical and e-card signups. And for context, in FY 2018, there were 19 e-card signups. In FY19, there were 18 e-card signups. In FY20, there were 583 e-card signups. And then we saw that jump go to 1,049 for FY21. Similar to most other data points, it is important to note that to maintain connections with cardholders as part of its marketing plan, the library implemented social media and email marketing efforts to encourage county residents to sign up for virtual library cards to access digital and online resources. The library also transitioned many of its programs and services online, which caused an uptick in virtual library card use. The next goal area is economic opportunity. And in particular, this goal is to focus on enhancing economic mobility and success of our current and future residents. One area I know all have been familiar with is the level and the degree of homelessness in Mecklenburg County. So in addition to the point in time count conducted each January, one of the work streams Community Support Services has is to connect individuals who are homeless and at risk of becoming homeless with a variety of resources and services to ensure a brighter future. Social workers assess individual needs and create plans with participants to develop specific goals that address life skill deficits, mental health, substance use, and employment skills. These wraparound services combined with housing are critical to the success of individuals in the various supportive housing programs. Despite the shift from face-to-face interactions to telephone contacts, the Community Support Services program staff continue to address the needs of program participants. In FY21, 533 individuals were stably housed through the 3 programs you see here: Shelter Plus Care, More Place, Housing First, Charlotte-Mecklenburg Partnership, and that was for a combined housing stability rate of 97%, which is 5 percentage points higher than the FY20 result. We also want to note that the 3 programs are not the only programs to address supportive housing in the community. However, when we created the 3-year business plan in FY19, this metric and strategy was established prior to those other supportive programs identified to date. Over the past several years, the county has increased its focus on workforce development initiatives. As such, for the strategy, the intent is to strengthen individual access to upward mobility opportunities through health and human service integrated services and employment placement services. One program is the United Workforce Development Program that works only with customers who experience at least 2 barriers to employment. In FY21, the program secured employment for 74 individuals at an average wage of $13 per hour. And I want to note that the individuals had many barriers that they needed to overcome. 77% of the 74 individuals had a criminal felony record, 59% struggled with substance misuse, 50% reported mental illness, and 43% experienced homelessness. 2 initial set of measures we track are the employment rate, of which 84% of the persons participating in the program were employed, and of that number, 57% were retained in the program. The key to note is that individuals do have the barriers and that staff are working to remove those barriers, and so the employment rate and retention rate percentages may not be as high as preferred. Additionally, retention rate decreases over the 2-year period were driven by layoffs due to the pandemic, customer concerns about risk of working during the pandemic, and new pandemic-related sources of income, such as direct relief payments. The 4th goal area is healthy community, with a goal to create a culture of health and wellness for our residents, customers, and employees. Within the strategic business plan, when the strategic business plan was first drafted, it was around the time that former Public Health Director Gibby Harris began sharing information on HIV prevalence in our community, and the concerns not only she had, but also the federal government had about what was beginning to occur or what was occurring in Mecklenburg County. With that, a strategy was added that focused more on understanding what the numbers were and then putting prevention efforts in place, such as providing educational strategies to inform the community about HIV, as well as increased testing and treatment. Several successes this past fiscal year include increased HIV outreach through in-home testing, offering free testing at Johnson & Wales University, and that was done in October 2020, providing HIV awareness campaigns that reached over 600,000 people, but 68,000 people in the community. And despite all the great work public health showed, in FY21, there was a drop in not only testing and counseling services, but also in the number of the new HIV diagnoses in Mecklenburg County. This behavior was also seen across the state of North Carolina that noted a 50% drop across the state in testing. So while the rate for FY 2021 ended at 22.2 per 100,000 in the community, public health staff believes that the overall 21 rate is showing an increase in HIV cases that are closer to the FY 2019 number seen pre-COVID. So this is a result, this result here for FY 21 is due to testing primarily, and not necessarily that we're seeing a decline in the HIV cases. So just want you to know, and we're still waiting for 21 numbers to come out. With all the restaurant growth we've seen in Mecklenburg County and will continue to see, the number of restaurants not only increased that came online, but also those that had required inspections each quarter. Some fun facts for 2021 is that the Environmental Health Division completed 13,882 inspections, issued 1,766 permits, responded to 5,356 service requests, all resulting in a 98% customer satisfaction rating. And when we're reviewing performance for the division, you see that over the 2 years, the department remained close to or at target. However, in FY 2020, the state of North Carolina made some changes to the methodology that we believe, for transparency purposes, is important to call out. So you can see the results here for FY 20 at 93%. You can see the results at 100%, but that was mainly due to the changes at the state, as well as the good work of the health department, I guess I should say. So the last goal area is safe community, and this is really focused on having an efficient and effective criminal justice system. One indicator of efficiency and effectiveness is the percent of residents or persons in the criminal justice system that do not recidivate. While we know that the full control of the county to mitigate recidivism is not feasible, there are programs and services such as reentry services and recovery courts to help stave off increase in recidivism rates. For the reentry services program, what we are proud to see is that there was a decline in the 2-year recidivism rate from 21% in FY 20 to 14% in FY 2021. We believe that the drivers for the decline in the rate is due to staff providing the clients disposable cell phones, homes with access or increased number of homes with access to desktop computers and other ways to access services online, and a redesign of the program to make it more accessible so that clients could stay connected during the pandemic. For the recovery courts, we also saw a decline in the recidivism rate from 19% in FY 20 to 16.82% in FY 2021. Some effective strategies staff believe contributed to the positive decline were, quote, drive-by, unquote, case management, or, quote, porch visits, unquote, that were high-touch and high-engagement approaches. Program leaders also ensured access to technology so that individuals in the program could access telehealth options. For a broader context, we did inquire with criminal justice services staff about the larger system that may have limited or enabled improvement in performance. When talking to the criminal justice services staff, they noticed some major system changes that were working up against them and or again may have helped them. One, they believe, is that they saw a decline in certain types of offenses. So there were actually fewer property crimes, even though there was a wave of broader community violence going on, and the decline in the property crimes was mainly because people were at home. So there was less occurrences of that. There was also concerted effort to use citations instead of arrest. And these recidivism rates are based on convictions. And then court closures also meant backlogs for staff, and so they may not have been able to get as many cases through. So continuing with the focus on recidivism, 2 measures are on this slide: jail substance abuse, and they track 90-day recidivism rate, and then new options for violent actions, which is the NOVA program, and they also track a 90-day recidivism rate. In FY 2021, the results for the jail substance use program slightly increased to 13%, but still remain below the 17% target. While detention services staff provided services since May 11, 2020, the services have operated at a reduced capacity to ensure staff and clients could practice social distancing. Staff were monitoring and have been and will continue to monitor the results. However, as later in the pandemic, there is consideration that the results could increase, especially because of the limited access to affordable housing and support systems that will help individuals sustain substance abuse recovery. In FY 21, the results for recidivism for NOVA did decline for the better, thus falling below that target of 8%. Some successful strategies used were new virtual service options that increased accountability and client engagement. And then by the end of 2020, Nova was operating more than 80%, and by the beginning of FY21, it was operating 93% virtually. And we also got additional data from clients that said that they were very pleased with all of the efforts that were made by staff to provide them a level of engagement, interaction, and ability to access services virtually. And then one sign of an efficient criminal justice system is the degree to which staff can encourage participants to comply throughout the duration of a court case. With that, the court appearance rates for recovery courts and pretrial services are tracked frequently. In FY 2021, the court appearance rate was 83% for recovery courts, and for that same fiscal year, the court appearance rate was 96% for pretrial services. Some strategies used to impact both results were hybrid court sessions to accommodate both virtual and in-person court sessions, case management services, increased case management services, multiple attempts to outreach to the clients, including text notification system and live court call reminders. And I think it is also important to note that CARES funding supported the recovery courts in general by providing cell phones to clients who needed them and drug testing to clients through the use of transdermal patches. So what I highlighted in this presentation is a snippet of all the information we collect across the 5 goal areas. In fact, this presentation could have been close to 50 slides. If persons are interested in learning more about FY21 performance for Mecklenburg County, they can click on the link in this presentation, accessing the link via the PDF, or they can visit the county site by searching for Mecklenburg County Annual Performance Report, and then it will automatically populate in the search engine. So Chairman Dunlap, that concludes my presentation, and I will be glad to take any questions from you or the board at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? All right, Commissioner.
Thank you, Dr. Allen. I was looking at our website for people seeking jobs, because I understand we have like hundreds of openings, and I'm not a big fan of the MECCountyCSOD.com website. I don't know if that's in-house or how that came to be, but I've tried it for myself. I've tried it for people I know who are looking to see if there's interesting employment for them at the county. And it's, you know, like, for example, I would never think of myself for Park and Rec or for public health because I have no background in anything related to STEM. But there's probably a lot of project management around those substantive areas that someone like me might be good for. But when I do the search, it gives me 0, you know. And I just know of some other talented folks who I feel like would be tremendous assets to the county. And I know they just when they go on our website, say, you know, and I don't know how to improve it. You know, I think it would be interesting if you could see all of them. So you didn't have to filter and have some algorithm screen out what it thinks isn't a good fit for you. I mean, I would like to see everything and have it arranged. I don't know how. But I just feel like it's not as transparent and as it could be to help bring people in. So I just want to give that feedback, and thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a minor question on page 12. Can you help me understand how the number goes down on the active library accounts? Like, it seems like it would be something that it would build on, and so I just don't really understand how that came down.
Yeah, so the active library card holders, so prior to the pandemic, it was really active library card holder that could go into the library, physically use the card, and when you use it within that certain period, I believe it's a 1-year period, then you're counted as active. But due to the library closures, individuals did not necessarily have as many opportunities to go use their library card. So that's when the library shifted its strategy to focus on e-card signups. So we do believe that's playing into some of that number in FY21, because the majority of the county operations was not closed necessarily, but we were working from home. So that's That's what we believe is the driver. Because if you look at the trend, they were able to sustain those numbers, but then for a full year impact of COVID on county operations, it did decline that 4 percentage points, and we believe that's why.
So what you're saying is it is tracking how many folks are actually using their library cards, not how many are signing up for
Yeah.
library cards?
Yes,
Oh,
exactly.
okay.
So they did a push to get people focused on e-card signups. And that was where I think I rambled off the numbers. It's not on this slide, but we did see that significant increase, I believe, from FY20, which was about 533 people, to 1,049 in FY21. So that's almost 500 more individuals signing up for e-card. Now, while that helped keep this number, I believe, high and not low, you also had more people going to e-card and not necessarily using, during the FY21 period because the libraries were closed. So again, we think that's playing into some of the numbers that you see here. We do want to monitor this, of course, for FY22, which is the last year of the plan cycle, and see hopefully that number go up back to normal, if not higher.
Okay, all right, thank you. And then just real briefly, page 14, I just think the housing stability rate is like, wow, that's tremendous that, it's at 97% for FY21, improved over FY19 and 20. That really jumped out at me, so just wanted to throw some kudos somebody's way there.
Yeah, and just for clarity, transparency purposes, the housing stability rate is those individuals that are stably housed for 1 year. So, knowing and recognizing all the efforts that we were making to focus on the homeless population or those that were at risk of homelessness, that's probably why you see such a high rate. But I can tell you that based on prior year performance that you see here in 18, 19, and 20, they also did pretty good work to keep that rate above that target of 90%.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Powell.
Thank you. Thank you, Monica, or Dr. Allen. On slide 20, it's on my mind. So I had a long conversation with a CIT officer for CMPD and some of my constituents about reducing recidivism. And it makes sense that the most successful programs offer high-touch services. What has changed? Because is it COVID that's causing this, or?
Well, I mean, again, similar to a lot of the other county operations, a shift in strategy and how we engage people, I believe, was driving this. I think some of it was due to the natural efforts of staff in these two programs, but because of closure, they couldn't do a lot of the face-to-face transaction with that population, so they had to do more going out to them. So that's where I was talking about, I think, porch visits and home visits, like drive-bys and things like that, as well as the use of technology like cell phones provided to populations, as well as increasing individual access to technology. So I think those were some of the drivers for the decline in numbers, but you also may have a play in the number of individuals. Sorry. That's okay. You also may have a play in the number of individuals that couldn't get through the court system. So that was some of it as well. So we really probably need to peel back the layer and kind of understand this a little more. But we had an extensive conversation with Sonia Harper and the Criminal Justice Services Department just to understand, this is good news. So what were you doing? And I do think the takeaway was the high touch work that they had to ratchet up compared to pre-COVID or right at the outset of COVID when they were doing more in-person transactions.
Okay, so I'm going to request that we peel some layers together because, as budget retreat comes up, I think this is something really important that we need to consider. How do we do more high touch as we come out of COVID? And so it's something that's really important to me, and I think we can make a big difference. But it's not going to be. I don't know how. I'm glad we're doing porch visits. I just don't know how you can do this remotely. You have to try.
Yeah, I mean, when the facilities were closed, they had to figure out other ways to get to people, and some of that was just going to meet the people where they were, not necessarily requiring them to come into the facility across the street all the way uptown to transact and do business with staff. So again, I mean, it's something that they had to try new and different for 21, and 21 staff was working from home, and there were some operations that were open, but for the majority of criminal justice services, they had to think differently about the work that they did. and that probably positively played into some of this. But there's also a bigger system of court closures and case backlog and all that type of stuff that made it a little more challenging for individuals to probably get their cases through. So I think it's just multiple reasons, but certainly they believe the high touch was effective.
Thank you. I'm just always impressed with your depth of knowledge. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, I think now's a good time to acknowledge my team because I feel like, I'll just do it really quickly. I feel like I'm a jack of all trades, but they're really the ones that help me pull together information. And I think 4 out of the 5 of them started the county in the last 7 months. So Gage Tillman, Eliza Durfee, John Chesser, Grant McMillan, and Laura Antonitis kind of helped me pull all this together. So thank you.
Thank you. And thanks to all your brainy team. I appreciate it.
All right, Commissioner Leak.
Thank you, and to our brilliant young lady, make sure that we look good. Thank you. Dr. Allen, I'm looking at financial management and how we have maintained a AAA rating. That is due to the manager that we have who keeps her eyes on the prize, and that's this county. So I want to commend her for her job in making sure that we do not fall below a AAA rating, and that's important. And that's important when we deal with the budget, when we vote for the budget, or not vote for the budget, but yet use the funds of the budget. That's imperative to the public to understand how we maintain a AAA rating. And Mr. Donut, can you tell me how long we've had this AAA rating?
Long time.
So again, I'd like for the minutes to reflect that this was brought up in stating that the manager has done an excellent job in managing those funds that belong to the county and to the taxpayers. The other question I have, and I'm not sure how well we did with this as relates to the wraparound services through DSS, in making sure that we were able to meet those needs in our communities where it was needed the most during this particular time. So can you tell me what page I can find that on? The wraparound services that's provided for the children, senior citizens, and others in the county due to the virus, but yet we were able to provide those services. So Mecklenburg County is to be commended with the size of this county and the number of people we service, and we're servicing the children within the confines of the school system. So if you could clarify that for me, so the public will know how we were able to maintain the care of those who could not care for themselves.
Yeah, so the only reference we really have to the wraparound is focused specifically on the homelessness strategy that's here with the supportive housing. But I can ask.
Not just housing now.
No, I know, but the point being that this was the only slide where I really referenced around wraparound services. So I don't know, Deputy County.
We can give you a report on that, Commissioner Leak. It depends on the program. So there are social workers in DSS that do some of that work. There are social workers in DCR. So we can update you and give you a full report on that.
Thank you. I just want to commend you in that department of taking care, but yet we were not here in the building. We were operating from our residence, and you were able to keep up with the number of people who needed this support, and we were able to continue to do so. And I received many telephone calls, especially from our seniors who were in need, but yet able also to receive those services, but you were still operating from home. And many of us who are commissioners and work with our people who are in need receive those telephone calls, because I did, even up until this morning, this afternoon. So you're to be commended for your work, and I wanted to let you know that. So when you have a report that deals specifically with how we support children through the school system with wraparound services, those same children that we provide the money through the school system to do, and yet we do it also outside of that realm. So thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Dunlap.
All right, just a couple of comments. First, as it relates to the employment, what people see when they go to the website. Recently, I had the opportunity to go as well. And I think it's probably a matter of preference. Because when you go to the site, you do have to know what you're interested in doing in order to find out if there's a job that meets your criteria. That's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is to see everything that's available and then decide what you might be interested in. So I didn't see anything wrong with that, but it's a matter of preference. And so I think one of the things that Lee is probably alluding to is the fact that people may not know what they're interested in, so they wouldn't know to go, for example, to management, because that's how you would find the management jobs. You'd have to put in management, or you'd have to put in park and rec. And what she's saying is, if the entire list was there, then people could go through the list and see where their skill set matches up.
So can I just intervene here? I actually just went onto it, and it just lists all the current openings that we have. So I'm not sure what you're looking at, but I'll bring this over when we're done so I can show you how it works.
Yeah.
Because it does list them all.
Okay, and then the other thing is, relative to the library cards, I'm really looking for an uptick in that next year, because remember, we paid all those fines, and so people were not using the library because there were all these fines. And so since we paid the fines, I'm hoping that next year we'll see an uptick in that. Just a couple of quick comments about some of the work that the county has been doing. And I've said this more than enough time. The amount of work and the tremendous amount of energy that goes into making sure that people have stable housing has paid off. And if you look at these numbers, I mean, I will tell you how impressed I am. The fact that we have a 97% stability rate, people who've been in their home consistently for a year. The Shelter Plus Care Program, 340 participants for a 97% rate. More Place, 120 for 97%. And Housing First, 73 for a 99% rate. And then the 200 housing unit increase over and above last year. Rapid rehousing through, I can't think of the girl's name. The ones that do the rapid rehousing. Well, anyway, 389 units. Permanent supportive housing, 1,044 units, and then the other permanent housing, 134 units. That is tremendous when you look at where we started, because, again, I remind you, 4 years ago, we wasn't even in the ballpark. We didn't even do this stuff. So I just think we owe a debt of gratitude to our staff for their efforts in this area. And then the one other thing I wanted to comment on, I want to thank the manager for ensuring that our staff participate in the advanced racial equity training. We have a little more than 5,000 now employees, but over 4,000 have already participated for a 95% participation rate. So you are to be commended for that. And as always, Dr. Allen, thank you so much for your work and presenting this in a way that we could deal with it.
It's a lot, but thank you so much. And please check out the full report and/or share it with your constituents, because there's a lot more information that we have to provide about the county's performance. So thank you so much.
Questions?
Yeah.
Will this be on our Station 16 so that the general public will be able to peruse this information?
I'm sorry, ma'am.
Will this information be available for the general public through our communication, Channel 16?
Well, it's on our website. I have to double check to see if it's being broadcast today on Channel 6. I don't know for sure.
I don't, yeah.
But you'll let us know if it's, please do. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. You're welcome.